Hi, Ahmed. Thank you so much for joining us. Yeah, so Eva and I were just talking about an unfortunate event that just happened, and there was a realtor partner, sorry, real estate agent in Ontario that went missing for a little bit, and we found out that her remain was found this morning. And so what I was saying is, well, I was sharing the dark side of real estate, which a lot of people don't talk about. And that is, when I was studying real estate, and for those of you that are aspiring to get into real estate, this is something to definitely know. And I wish I knew before getting into real estate. And that is, it is, I think the last chapter of my getting my license, it talked about safety. I don't know. Was it the same during your time that they started talking about safety? Like, here you are, they're getting you all excited about real estate. And it was literally the last chapter that they said, okay, so here's what you got to do. You have to make sure that you're safe because you're going to go into private homes, sometimes vacant, with someone you've never met before, an absolute stranger. You can go into a dark basement, or people will just walk into your open houses, and people that you don't know. And this is the true reality of it. A lot of people like say, oh, realtors, what do? They do this, they do that. Like what you see on TV, and there's a lot of shows, it's just, it's far from the truth. The real thing is we have to be careful of our safety, right? So I don't know, what did you feel when you saw that this morning? That's pretty scary. That's like I don't know. That's
Yeah, it's really sad. Like at this point, we don't know if it's real estate related or not. Like the circumstances are like very unknown. It's so sad to see like not only like a realtor, but just like a woman. I mean, I think women, we're in a really interesting seat because we see so much true crime like about women all the time, you
Mhm.
know? Now it just hits a little closer to home, makes you think about what you could do to be a little bit safer because we're in the same job. In my school experience, they didn't really talk about it at all. I
Yeah.
found like just when I went to my first brokerage, they did do some like safety training.
Yeah.
Um, and the tips are like not really enough. Like the tips are like, oh, like you don't go down the stairs first, like they go down the stairs
Yeah.
first. Uh,
Yeah. I mean, that's something that we do talk about, right? We allow the prospect, or soon to be hopefully client, to walk in first, and to see the home first and things like that. But imagine, like, I think almost most of the stuff that is being taught in real estate, in the traditional real estate, doesn't take into consideration the safety of realtors. And like, in fact, like in the real estate industry, more than half of those that are practicing real estate are actually women. That's crazy. And so, yes, women nowadays, they have a lot of rights, they have a lot of training and things like that. But let's be real. There's if someone has planned it out, I mean, then it's a different game. Doesn't matter if you're a man or a woman. I remember a few years ago there was a gentleman in Ottawa, part of the Ottawa Real Estate Board, that walked in to a home that was tenanted, and he shared the picture on social media with the realtor group. And he said that he walked in to a home that was tenanted. He knocked at the door. He thought everything is great, whatever. He walked in. Suddenly, what happened was the tenant actually approached him from above, because it was like, one of those like split level homes. So it didn't see, and like hit him right in the head. and injured him. And, you know, sometimes like the tenants are not in a good relations with their landlords. And, you know, as realtors, we're there to like, you know, help with the process, which we're hired to do, which is help someone find a home or sell a home and things like that. And we don't know the backstory. And so it just goes to show that we should take those precautions and just make sure that we safety first, right?
Yeah, I think we're there, like as an kind of an intimate person in people's lives. Like, I know clients, like sometimes they're moving because of happy things, sometimes it's not so happy. And then when it's not even our clients, we're walking into their lives every day. Like, oh, even just if a home's empty, you're kind of walking into someone's life. Um, not be safe. Like, for example, it's not just like people, but like if I go into a house and there's an unattended dog,
That's
I
it.
won't go in.
Yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, that's a good point. There have been times where I was like, okay, there's a dog in the house, and I'm literally walking into a space where it belongs to them, and I don't know if they're gonna attack me. So that's a really, really good point. But more than that, I think that it's that much more important for us to protect ourselves when it comes to, you know, seeing homes like that. Like before, I would be like showing up to a home and I'm like, oh my gosh, I hope I make it alive. Like I would like message, you know, my spouse and say, hey, you know what, just so you know, I am going to be at this address in case you don't hear back from me, come get me at this address, you know. But you know, those are the things, and I know you did that too. But that's the reason why, you know, I think it's important for people to know when we ask you, please provide us your ID, please provide us with, let's say, your pre-approval. And part of the reason why we're doing this, of course, is to make sure that we are talking to the right person or persons, because in the world that we live in today, you don't know if you're actually talking to a human being. You may be talking to an AI. In fact, the same thing goes with you guys. You know, you're trying to get a hold of an agent, and next thing you know, you're talking to everybody but the real estate agent that was representing that home. So that's the reason why it's that much more important to make sure that you're protected. So whether it be like you actually have an agent doing all that back work for you. Like a lot of friends and families, oh, you don't need an agent, just call the listing you're about to go into to save yourself a buck. But really, guys, you're not going to do that, okay, which we can dive into. And we can dive into it a little bit later. But what you're doing is you're putting yourselves really out there, because now people know what's going on with your life. Like, why is it that you're moving? Did you know that the agent that you call in, if it's the listing agent, they are signed up to protect the best interest of the seller, not the best interest of you. They are legit under an agreement to protect the seller. So when you're calling just like that, you know, they have to find anything you share with them as if you talked to the seller directly. So for instance, you say, you know what, I really need to move into this house because I know that the valuation of this home tomorrow is going to double because of X, Y, and Z. So me or Eva here as the agents of the seller, guess what? We are now under an agreement to share that information with the seller. So not only you're not saving a buck, you're putting yourself in a disadvantage, right? And on top of that, you are pretty much you don't know if you're actually talking to the agent or you're talking to a bot, and you're going to be called by so many different agencies and agents, and it just becomes annoying, right? So keep that in mind, guys, when you're looking at that. But I think also safety, You know, how do you know you're talking to an agent and not some kind of criminal? And unfortunately nowadays, I mean, they come in all shapes and forms, right? So yeah, it's a very, very unfortunate event that happened. And, you know, even for agents, like, you know, for me, knowing now that we work in a team with the system that we have, I think it's also pretty good because it protects us from that end, right? Why don't you like tell people what it is that we do? Like I would say like other agents that are thinking, hey, you know what is this team? What do they do? What is it that we do? Like when it comes to buyers and even some buyers and sellers, like that'll give them some kind of a clarity and understanding why is it that we ask them to meet with us, right?
Yeah. So on our team, every single buyer that I go out with is signed up with me. They're pre-approved. We have met ahead of time on Zoom. We have their
Or
IDs.
in
They're
person,
or in,
not always
yeah, on Zoom or in person. Um, and we know that 100% they're real buyers. It's more safe for me, but also for the homes I'm going into, it's more safe for them. Because everybody doesn't even matter really where you are in the scale of wealth nowadays. Everybody has valuables in their house. Everybody has, you know, safe things in their house. And I think most of the time when people put up their home with a realtor, it's for some sense of like security, legitimacy, you know, things that are going to be done right. So on our side, we're doing the right thing by making sure that like it's all positive intentions, that the buyers that we are bringing are legitimate, and um, the agents on our team, like myself, I really get the benefit of knowing who it is I'm going into homes with. Um, like you said before, some of them are vacant, right? And also my team members knowing where I am. That's a big thing. And also if I'm ever, you know, reserved, because even in our system, right, we still have sign calls, things like that. I could always ask them to come with me, right?
Yeah, I mean, we did that just yesterday, right?
Yeah.
We went into a home, and by the way, that's a really exciting home. We can talk about it a little bit later. But yeah, so that's something that we do as a team. Make sure that, you know, we're there for each other. There is nothing, um, we don't, nobody is put at a jeopardy. But a lot of the times, you know, previously, like how was it previously? Like, and is still being done in most, I would say most real estate practices, brokerages. Like how do people do, like people call and say, hey, can you show me this property? And the agent, regardless of what they're doing, maybe they're in the middle of a, I don't know, like a soccer practice for their kids. They run into their car and out they go to show the property only to find out like, and the buyer's like, okay, thank you so much. And it's like, you know, I don't know. Am I frozen, Eva, from your
Yeah.
end?
Sure.
Looks like I'm frozen from my end. But you can hear me? The audio's coming through? Okay, the audio's coming through. I don't know. My internet is just like a little wonky. Sorry. Um, but yeah, so bottom line is we don't know. A lot of the times that's how it's done. People just call in and then agents just run in to show the property and that's it. They're missing out a lot of important times and events with their family and friends, only to be just door openers for people and provide access and possibly put themselves in danger. And that's what we're talking about because, again, the unfortunate news that came out this morning. Again, we don't know if it's real estate related, but it's a real thing where, you know, agents do put themselves in that position and they don't need to, they shouldn't. So if we're asking to meet with us ahead of time and provide us with like ID, that's the reason why we do it. And in our team, you can expect almost always that we will not just jump into the car to just show you the property because safety is very important. We want to make sure not only safety for our ourselves, but also our sellers. We want to make sure that, you know, we're not just showing the home to some looky-loo that wants to get into a home, right? And I think that's what you want as a home seller anyway, right? So anyways, with that, what else is going on? So that's a little bit of a serious talk going on. We went to see an awesome listing yesterday, right? That is, we can't give the exact address, but in case any of our followers, whether it be buyers, realtor partners from other parts of town in Ottawa or outside of Ottawa, know of investors that are looking to purchase here in Ottawa, we have over 20 off-market properties right now, guys. So if you know somebody who is looking for something specific and they can't find it on realtor.ca, like, don't give up, because there are other homes out there that we would love to give access to you. Okay, and the reason why, you know, we are not putting it up, it's either because this home seller themselves requested it, right? They're like, yeah, I don't want to go on the market, didn't like it. So either because of that, or the other reason, it like for privacy or whatnot. The other reason for it is simply because they're just getting ready. So they're in the process, or they themselves are looking to secure a home before they put their home in the marketplace. So, hey, thank you so much. I do see that. Do you see the comments too, Eva, or is it just me?
I don't
So,
comments. I don't see.
okay, well, I see that. I see someone said big greetings from Tajikistan. All right, so we have some people like from across the globe, which is really awesome. Thank you so much for joining us. Yeah, so yeah, we have some really awesome. So what was that listing about? Why don't you share with the viewers here?
Yeah, so is near like Blair, RT station. Doesn't really get more central than that. Almost. You're almost downtown. Really cute residential townhome. I think it's perfect for first-time home buyers. It's perfect for downsizers. It's perfect for investors. I think if that thing went up for rent, I don't think it would ever really be vacant at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's going to check a lot of people's boxes.
Now, some of the things that I want to say, something that we do offer our VIP buyers is that whenever you become our VIP buyer, you will get notified of these properties ahead of it ever hitting the marketplace. And if it happens to be a match for you, then you let us know and we'll connect the two sides. And it's a win-win-win all around. It's a win-win for you and the seller because A, you were able to find the property, you were able to beat everybody else, all other buyers for this property. It's a win for the seller because they didn't have to go through the hassle of letting a bunch of people through, some of which may be looky-loos. Now, understand that for us, the people that are coming through with our team, they're 100% qualified and checked out to make sure that they're actually buyers looking to get into the marketplace. But unfortunately, that is not a standard practice in the real estate industry. So there may be people that are coming through that are meeting the agent outside for the very first time. Again, that is not the practice that we follow, but it is unfortunately a standard practice in the industry at this time in Canada. So it's a win for the sellers as well because they don't have to go through that hassle. And of course, it's a win for us because we were able to connect all the sides and make sure that our systems are working and keep getting it better and better and helping you with this process to a point where it is so hassle-free that you can just, with a click of a button, you can get it all done. And by the way, we're getting close to that. So with that, I want to say that, yeah, so there's this amazing property coming up, but we have like over 20 different off-market properties that okay, so I see some comments there, and happy to definitely. I love the interaction with people. I mean, that's the reason why we're doing this, right? So bring in your comments and questions. Happy to answer anything and everything when it comes to real estate or something like that related. We're happy to help. Okay. All right. So with that, what else? What else is happening, Eva?
Um, I mean, I think a lot of sellers are getting ready at this time as well. More listings I think are going to be coming up in our next busy market, which is fall. There is, I think, a great opportunity out there for multiplex purchases. If anybody is looking for like things that were previously unheard of, I do think they're around, like duplexes, like around 650. I think it's like a very competitive time for investors. Not only here in Ottawa either. Like if you were, let's say you're like a bit of a dreamer and you're like, I could qualify for 350 and I want a multiplex and I want to be an investor and build my portfolio. You could actually do that in Ontario. You actually do that in places like Cornwall, Hawkesbury, even Rockland. There's some interesting opportunities. Renfrew, which isn't so far, Almont, Smith Falls, even. So I think a lot of first-time home buyers, maybe people my age or younger, or maybe even older, are feeling hard pressed. Like, I want to build my real estate portfolio, but I don't know how. You could do it. It doesn't matter your budget, really.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so true. Like there's a lot of don't allow your what you think your limiting beliefs take you or block you from getting to what you want to do, which is home ownership. We have ways in which we can get you there, whether it be, you know, as you know, I was talking about it yesterday in our team huddle that we are in talks with a company that sort of work just with first-time home buyers and people that are trying to get into home ownership, but for whatever reason they don't have the down payment yet. So they build out an agreement where they help them do that. So they have a creative way of getting them into home ownership. So certainly there is that. But one thing you mentioned, which is worth mentioning here to everybody, is the fall market. I think the fall market is going to be pretty good. I think fall market in Ottawa is starting to pick up soon. I think it's going to be picking up sooner than later. There is that demand that's been or that need or that what's that word I'm looking for? People wanted to get into real estate, but they couldn't, or they were thinking, oh no, I better not because interest rates are too high right now, right? But now I think they are getting ready to get in there. Buyers are feeling a lot more comfortable getting into the marketplace. Like, let's not forget, just like couple years ago, people were like fighting to get into a house regardless of what it had and what it didn't have. So the demand is still there, and I think it's becoming more and more prominent. And I think if I were to make any kind of prediction, I think that we're going to have a very busy fall market here in Ottawa. What do you think?
I do think I think that like the interest rates dropping was answering a lot of people's prayers. But it just happened at a time that I don't think the reaction reaction is quite what I expected. Like, I thought things would get a lot crazier already. But I think maybe that's because people are on vacation, people are cottaging, people are trying to soak up the last of the outside weather here in Ottawa, because I know we're going to have to strap in for winter pretty soon. Yeah, and I think maybe that delayed reaction is going to happen in September.
Yeah.
And if anybody's listening, like, and you were the one saying, like, oh, interest rates are too high, like, the excuse is no longer there. Like, interest rates are not too high anymore.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think we're in for a good one.
Yeah. I think definitely there's a lot of opportunities still. As you mentioned, like there's opportunities for investors. And I would say especially for investors because um, like we have a housing shortage, not just for home buyers, but like for tenants, for people that are wanting to be tenants, you know, because they're having a hard time getting into home ownership. They don't qualify for home ownership, but they need a home. And when it comes to like tenants, the stuff that they need to show, sometimes, you know, there are tenants that are willing to pay a whole year's rent ahead of time. So if you are an investor out there, I had a really good conversation the other day with a homeowner that, you know, is listing their home with us. And he has been in Ottawa for, I would say, like over 40 years. And he said, so he is a senior person, and he said, you know, overall, out of all the investments I have made, whether it be into, you know, GICs or, you know, all these different RSV and all these different products, stocks and things like that, he said the best investment I have made by far has been in real estate. And part of what I love doing about our work, yeah, we talked about the dangers of our work, but I think part of what we both enjoy is like having those connections and conversations with people. Like you gotta love talking to people, right? You gotta have a good time when you're talking to people and enjoy the conversation and, you know, soak up their knowledge as well. And like for me, that's the best part of our work. And like he was saying, like, you know, if I could go back, I would get more into real estate. And he said, but you know, at the end of the day, I have to say that when you have a cake and you enjoy a piece, allow other people to enjoy another piece as well, because too much cake is no good for you. And I thought that was so nice. You know, he's like, you know, like I've gained a lot from real estate, and it's now time for other people to do the same. And I thought that was so nice. I'm gonna share it here with people. So yeah, there we go.
Yeah, what I think about real estate investors, you know, some people put a bad like name on it, almost like, oh, like why would you want to be a landlord? Like, people should live in homes and it shouldn't be a business. Whatever way you look at it, like the way it is what it like it is what it is kind of thing. Like they're landlords, and I think what we saw with our with the announcement of the capital gains change, I did think that like prompted some investors to like really get out, especially the small time ones. Like it just wasn't worth it if on the end when they sell it's not going to be good. I think it almost puts us in a worse spot, like people not willing to be landlords, because not everybody is a homeowner, and there truly is a shortage of good landlords. Like good, well-meaning landlords that want to have a good relationship with their tenants, that want to keep the same tenants for a long period of time. So if you're somebody that's been like thinking about, you know, maybe I should get an investment property, you could make a positive, like a really
Cash flow.
positive, well, cash flow, but also influence on somebody else's life
Yeah,
by being a good landlord.
that's true. You
Yeah.
know, the problem with like investors or people that are wanting to get into investment, real estate investment, when I talk to them, one of the things they say is like, well, I'm worried about like the tenants that I'm going to attract or the people that are going to come and move into my home and trash the place and things like that. And you know, there's all these different like I would say Facebook pages and things like that where people like landlords talk to each other and they're worried about it, about what can happen, what could go wrong when it comes to um, becoming a landlord, you know. But what I say to people is that, listen, if you do your due diligence, if you really look into the type of people that you want to attract, like, do you know what kind of tenants are you looking for? That's the most important thing. A lot of the times people get into landlordship and don't have any vision in terms of where they're taking this. Are they just doing it just for fun? Or like, what is the end game here? And it's not just for investors. I would say for anybody getting into real estate, guys, like have a goal in mind. Like you're doing this for what? You know what I mean? Don't just do it to do it because somebody else told you to do it. Like actually do it because you believe in like, okay, if I do this, I'm going to be able to get into this and so on and so forth. So when it comes to landlords, I would say that there are definitely things that can be done to protect you. One of the things that you know you want to do is don't try to do something. So this is a writer downer for y'all landlord wannabes. Don't do something that you're not good at. Like hire the professional to do it. You know, hire the professional. And believe me, no matter what, the cost of what that professional is going to cost you is going to save you in the long run. What do I mean by that? It's going to save you all the hassle, all the time, all the trouble, all the problems you're going to have in the future. If you hire a true professional, they're going to make this look so easy. Okay, but it's not because it's easy, it's because they know what they're doing, right? So I mean that's the thing when it comes to landlords. For me, like, you know, make sure you hire a professional first and foremost. And how do you know if you hired a professional? Well, find out who these people are. Have they done this before? What are they making any recommendations to you? Right? Like yesterday or even the previous time, like whenever we talk to a seller, the seller can tell if we know what we're talking about. You know, the tips we're going to give you to make your home stand out of all the others, right? We're going to give you inexpensive tips to increase the value of your home. Inexpensive tips. So that's the key word right there. Okay, we're not going to tell you go ahead and rebuild your home. Obviously, at that point, anybody can you know sell it or gain value. But the problem is sometimes you don't want to spend too much on your home that you can't get it out, because we have to have the vision of what it is that we're trying to achieve at the end. You know what I mean? We are selling this home because fill in the blank. You know, I'm selling this home because my son is getting married and they want to become a homeowner soon. So I want to help them with the down payment. But if you spend too much money on your home to, you know, to fix it up, then there's no money to be given down to your son. I'm selling my home to move up to my next home and so on and so forth. So understand your vision first and foremost. And for landlords, same thing, you know, understand why you're doing it. So how do we know? Then the other thing we're going to do is for our landlords is what do we do for our landlords to make sure that they're getting the right tenant? Obviously, there's an application form, and this application form is very important for us to see who these tenants are, where they've lived, what do they do, and things like that. Who are the people that are going to be moving into the home? What else do we look for, Eva, when it comes for tenants? Well,
Well, we
landlords in tenants.
landlords and tenants, yeah. So of course we do all the application stuff like credit report, references, like we check all those. I think you could get a good read on tenants, like talking to them themselves.
Yeah.
Definitely, like for references, you don't always know exactly who it is that you're calling because they're putting it down themselves. So it says it's your boss, but it could be, whomever. So you really have to kind of dig deep, ask questions. If they've had previous experience, I do love an application that's had like has a number written down that you could really see, like, oh, this is Minto, this is a rental company. Check out their jobs, their situation. But you could even tell a lot from like, how does somebody keep their car? Like you look in their car window and it's all messy. Well, like I think you can imagine how it goes.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh my gosh, that's like the biggest thing I think with anybody. Hence, I know y'all, when you come to our cars, you start judging, so we make sure that our cars are like neat and tidy. But yeah, it's true.
yeah. Um,
Yeah.
if I'm like helping an investor purchase, we have done this a couple times. So if you're like an investor and your budget is like an apartment budget, I do have a couple like great apartments that I know that like young professionals live in. They work for the government that like we've just like seen success before.
Mhm.
Or if you have a townhome budget, like we've seen success before in those neighborhoods, or we have had a rental listing there. I know what kind of applicants like apply there. So I feel like being an investor, like, yes, the application is one thing, but there's a science to it, right? Like we've had experience that maybe you don't have. And I've seen it on the other side too, that an investor that didn't buy with me comes to me and wants me to help them rent it. And all the applications are like the same, like they don't have a job or it's huge families. But yeah, and I would think for whoever is being an investor, like think about the kind of applications that you would entertain and what kind of ones you wouldn't. Because there's like some really great applications, but they don't have experience renting here in Canada. Like, would you do that? Let's say a doctor relocating to Canada. Would you take that risk or not? Right? Or two young professionals that, they've lived with their parents this whole time and this is going to be their first house.
Yeah.
There's pros and cons to all these senses.
Absolutely. Yeah, at the end of the day, it really comes down to, it doesn't matter what you do, but we probably can't do what you do for work, right? So getting the professionals involved, it's definitely worth it. It'll save you a lot in the future. We know how to protect you. We know what to put in there. We know what are the ways in which we can make sure that you don't get into that difficulty of possibly ending with the wrong tenant, because that is going to be extremely costly, you know. And a lot of the times those tenants come through, from my experience talking to other landlords and investors, they come through like Kijiji ads or like Facebook ad marketplaces and things like that. That is usually the case. Now, I love how you talked about duplexes and triplexes and things like that, investors. I love those as an investment, because what's nice with it is that, you know, oftentimes having two tenants or three tenants and so on and so forth, it's going to help you offset your vacancy rate. Okay, vacancy rate is a time where your property may be in between tenants. So this tenant has given their 60 days notice, they're moving out, and then you have like tenant number, number two there, right? So that'll help you as a landlord be able to offset the cost, because that tenant is still going to be paying, the tenant that's staying there or tenants that are there, they're going to be paying for some of the operating expenses, like, the utilities and things like that, while you're trying to find and secure yourself another tenant. So I would say when it comes to like getting into home ownership or like investment, that would be the tier up, to try to get into when it comes to investment. We also have, obviously, nowadays with the cost of living being high, a lot of people do consider renting out their basement, or maybe they have like a secondary dwelling in their home and things like that. There are different ways in which we see that investors are trying to make the numbers work. Another way in which they try to make the numbers work is they go ahead and rent different rooms, right, to different people. Of course, that's not something the lender likes, because from a lender's perspective, imagine, the lender has lended you $500,000 to $1 million, and they want to see their return on investment, meaning if you end up selling it, they can get their money back, right? And of course, if you have a bunch of people coming in for short time, it doesn't look good. They don't like Airbnbs. They don't like these different types of ways of doing things. But why don't we talk about a little bit about Airbnbs? Because Airbnb is a topic that I think a lot of people like the idea. It's sexy, it's exciting, but really, are there any Airbnbs here in Ottawa? And like, what has been your experiences? Can people do Airbnb, let's say, in condominiums? And if they are, what should they look out for when they're thinking about that?
So, Airbnbs, they have been like restricted here in Ottawa. There's a map, I guess, that has the rules and regulations, but pretty much like all of regular Ottawa, downtown, the suburbs, like we have restrictions here. And that was something done by the government to make like more homes available for first-time home buyers and like traditional living, of course. And also Airbnbs have kind of been seen as a disruption to suburban life, I guess, because, some people rent out Airbnbs and have parties and like maybe not quite living regularly, more like living on vacation sometimes.
Yeah.
Yes, and short answer to the can you Airbnb condominiums? Yes. The rules are like per the building. So there are buildings that will not allow you to do Airbnb. And also there's buildings that will not allow you to rent to groups of people that aren't a family. They also have those kind of rules in there. The rules around Airbnbs, if you have a condominium that allows it, and these kinds of things, like your community allows it. I'm sure there's also associations, home associations that may not allow it either. It has to be your primary dwelling. And even if, I learned this, even if you're in, let's say you own a multiplex, and you're like, oh, I'm going to Airbnb one of the units, I technically live in this whole dwelling, apparently it has to actually be the unit you live in. So it's even further restricted. I know that there's people that want to get around it by, oh, I'm going to rent out my basement as Airbnb. But if it's technically a different dwelling, technically it's not allowed. Are you going to get caught? Well, who knows? There are neighborhoods that I wouldn't suggest. People have I've heard stories of people buying for the purpose of Airbnb, and whatever neighbors they have had complained, and it's in their right to do so, right? So I wouldn't buy anything for the purpose of something that is not legally allowed, or like going against the rules, or you're like pulling a fast one because it's just too big
Over
of an
risk. Yeah, but it really again comes down. What's that?
like, how are you going to make your money if you can't do that?
Yeah.
Like, you're kind of just here with a huge mortgage.
Yeah. I mean, it really comes back down to what we talked about earlier, which is you need to make sure that you understand, like, and communicate it effectively with your real estate professional. Why is it that you're doing what you're doing? Are you doing it for the purpose of Airbnb? Are you doing it for a purpose of building wealth through real estate, building your real estate portfolio, helping family situation changing and things like that? Then we can direct you in the right path and say, okay, this is what you need to do in order to avoid all of the other things, right? The other thing I wanted to talk about now, completely different topic, is how do you feel about like buyers when they are putting an offer on a home and then suddenly they want to include all the different things? First of all, let's talk about what is included in most purchases here in Ontario aside from the house, because as opposed to in Quebec. But what's included in the purchase of homes here in Ottawa?
Well, I have this memorized. All electronic light fixtures. So everything that's screwed in. I'm not talking about like lamps. No, those are not included. If it's screwed in, if you could turn the house upside down and it not fall off, then it should be, right? So pictures, I know we included in our stuff drapery rods, curtains, blinds. This is just for ease, by the way. So you're not moving in day one with no drapery, because like I would hate to, you're moving everything and you have to go to Home Depot. Like that sucks. Things like bathroom mirrors, that's included. Then we have like appliances. Usually, not all the time, but usually here in Ottawa, it's stove, fridge, hood fan, washer, dryer. If they're not there when you go and see it, okay, it's not going to be there when you buy.
Dishwasher. We have dishwashers.
Yeah, washer. So these things are included. Furniture is not included. If you like something like a couch, okay, well, maybe it could be included, but that's not going to be something that you can assume is going to be there. Same thing with like a lot of people think like patio furniture, and like if there's a gazebo, it's going to be there. Like it might not be there. So you have to really, if you like love something, you have to mention it. So you put it in. Even things like hot tubs, they might not, if you don't include it.
Yeah.
So
yeah. I think a lot of people just assume, and that's where you get into trouble. But okay, so those are the things. But like, how has been your experiences with these things? First of all, like home sellers these days, by the way, what's becoming more and more popular in homes is what I see are hand bidets. Are you seeing that? Hand bidets? You know what those are, right?
I've seen them in a lot of homes for a while.
Yeah.
I think. Yeah.
I find it to be a thing recently, which is great. Because where I come from, bidets are a thing, as you know. Like I'm half Persian and half Filipino, and whether it be in Iran, especially in Iran, they have bidets. They have a lot of hand bidets, and the nice thing with hand bidets, now we're going to be talking about hand bidets a little bit, and watch now. Suddenly, we're going to get a lot of people interested in it. What I have to say, the hand bidets in North America, they are like, they can, like, you can't control the temperature of the water, Whereas like in Iran, we have like hot and cold so well. That's my only thing, that whoever is getting into, like whoever are the makers of this, if you want to like up your game and like suddenly, up your sales, I would say definitely look into helping with the temperature regulation of that, especially in a country as cold as Canada, where like water is freezing. So, but yeah, like hand bidets, I'm so happy to see it happening in Ottawa. I don't know which other cities we're seeing it, but they're great. What are you gonna say? I feel
Well,
like
I
you want to
say some buildings don't allow hand bidets to be installed.
really.
Yeah,
What?
because
That's so crazy.
well, not that crazy because like I think you can imagine kids could have fun.
Yeah, yeah.
It's a plumbing thing if it's not done properly. You can get like the hot water if you want. You just need to have like plumbing. You have to bring the hot water
Yeah.
there. So I know a
Yeah.
lot of like cheaper alternatives, like they just use the water source that's already there.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah.
very interesting.
So yeah, so hand bidets are a thing. And, I remember like in Iran, not only did we have hand bidets, but we actually had like those European bidets. And sometimes you see them in homes. They actually like are a totally different setup. And I like them. They're great. But I mean, everybody is very different. So we get all of that. But yeah, when I first came to Canada, this is like close to like probably 30 years ago. And I realized there is no thing that does the same function. It was crazy. It was like, that's it. Tissue paper, like toilet paper, that's it. But anyways, yeah, so those are becoming a thing for to be added as an inclusion, as a fixture. So make sure people don't take your hand bidets with yourself. Just let it be included in the purchase. But if you're ever in doubt, you have to let your realtor know, hey, listen, they better make sure that the hand bidets come with the house, or the mirrors. And the crazy part is, of course, in Ottawa, they're a little bit more trusting. So they're like, yeah, make sure these are the things included. But like bigger cities like Toronto, where it's a little bit of a wild, wild west, we have to really, really put everything in there, including like smoke detectors, furnaces, ACs, and things like that, because you never know. People, home sellers might just walk right out with the AC, or sometimes even like the kitchen island. So those are the things that we want to make sure that
Oh,
we include. Um,
it's like yeah, when I go into homes, it's like I'm always like trying to push the island around.
yeah,
Like it's
yeah,
happening.
yeah. The best way I find to find out that the island is actually built in is if it has like some kind of like an electrical plug or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's always like I just had it the other day, like going to an inspection, and they're like, "Oh, is this gonna be here?" I'm like, "I didn't even know you like that." Like, no, no furniture. Okay, well, what about this? Like, what about that? Like, it's okay, especially if you did buy home. Like, definitely, if you want something, you can mention it like during the conditional period, but like, please do not try to get it after the
Oh
conditional
my
period.
gosh. Yeah. And
Yeah.
don't be so married to the idea. Like, I mean, some people a little bit go overboard. They're like, oh my gosh, I gotta have this, I gotta have that, I gotta have like the whole furniture of the house. Like, they may or may not want it, and we are really not there to help you buy furniture, although we can try. But it's not always that things will come in with the house. Even I've seen people say, nope, the shed is not included. I was like, what? You're gonna like walk out there on the last day with your shed to make sure that. And they're like, yeah, we're gonna put it in our next home. So go
Um,
figure.
yeah. Well, okay, another one that's really common is like, let's say you're moving, somewhere like Greeley, or like you're getting like an estate lot, I almost always ask for the lawnmower.
Yeah.
Like, I'm always
Yeah.
like, and let's
The
say,
riding mower.
yeah, the like lawnmower. I always try to do my clients like a little like service, you know. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna try to get you the lawnmower. And another interesting thing is we did have a client that bought a previous, like it used to be an Airbnb.
Uh-huh.
Um, and we got it fully furnished, like everything
Wow.
in it.
That's nice.
We even told them like leave the cutlery, leave the knives, the strainers, everything, blenders, and it was perfect because they were buying it for their. I'll tell you who it is after when we talk.
I know who it is. I know who it is.
Yeah, and it was just
Remember it.
like for um
Yeah, that's nice. I remember doing that. Now, the thing is, what's nice with that is what you have to be careful with that is that a lot of the times lenders don't like that.
Yeah.
Because they're like, so you are mortgaging cutleries for 25 years. So that, so you got to be very careful, and you got to make sure that your agent knows what they're doing and how they're putting it into the agreement of purchase and sale so that you're protected there. But there's a lot of good stuff. We can certainly talk about things that you can look into and be aware of when you're about to purchase. What can come with the house? What are the different things to ask from your agent? What should you say to your agent when you're purchasing a home? Everything, all the details is very important for you to share with your agent so that your agent knows what your wishes are. The worst thing is for you to share that after the fact, or like be like, oh my gosh, I thought this was included, and things like that, right?
Yeah. I was just gonna say, like, you should find someone that you really feel like you could say anything to. I hope you don't hear Jeffrey. He's like all being crazy. Jeffrey's my dog. But you find someone, like it's better to over communicate. I know myself, like I'm not gonna take anything, the wrong way. Like just say what you really feel. Also like be bold enough, I guess, to say your biggest dream too. I know some people, like first time you meet them, they're so embarrassed. They're like, oh, I want this and this, but my budget is this. They're all nervous to even say what they want, but we could do our best and we'll make it happen.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, there you have it, guys. It's yet another live today, and we're a little bit over our time. So thank you so much for joining us on this live, and I want to say thank you to Eva for coming on here and sharing all the awesome stuff. I find with lives, whenever we're more towards the end, it gets better. I don't know why. It just gets more interesting, and like the fun conversations come about. So if you are following us, make sure you watch it till the end, because it always gets more interesting towards the end, and you never know what sort of topic we're going to talk about. But the whole point of this is to bring you guys value. And if you have any questions or suggestions in terms of what you'd like to know about real estate, don't hesitate. Put it in the comments. Certainly today was a bit eye-opening for us and for me in particular, because I see that we have people watching us, not necessarily even from Canada. So, hey, listen, I want to say thank you so much for following us, for being with us. And I especially want to say thank you to you, Eva, for coming on here and doing this with me. I appreciate you.
Well, thank you.